Hey guys, it's Kim Dao here, welcome back to my channel. So the past couple of weeks I've been putting out some Japan videos that I guess I have been saving up over the past year, and after every video I always ask you guys to give me video suggestions on what you would like me to do. So a lot of you guys actually asked me to make a video on how safe Japan is to travel to as a woman when you're going alone. And as you guys know, I do travel to Japan very often, and about 95% of the time I travel alone. Have asked me if I had any scary experiences, so I'm just going to talk about them today in this video. So this is going to be a chatty video just talking about my personal experiences and experiences of others traveling in Japan or living in Japan as well. About like 5 or 6 years ago, I made a video on how safe Japan is, and I mentioned in that video that Japan is the safest country I've ever traveled to, and that hasn't changed. Of course, when you travel, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter how safe the country is. Having common sense is the most important thing. So what I mean by that is, even though I said Japan is the safest country I've ever traveled to, that doesn't mean you should just walk down random dark alleyways just because, you know, supposedly it's a safe country. So like I said, when I travel to Japan, I usually go alone because, well, I go very often and most of the time it's for work. There have been times where a friend or my husband or sister would travel with me, but that's only on the rare occasion. And it's because if the trip is solely for work, I don't want to drag people around with me because it's just not fun for them. It's like a waste of time, a waste of a trip. So the first time I went to Japan alone was when I was 22, so 8 years ago. That was when Liz Lisa wanted to work with me and wanted to fly me to Japan to meet them. I remember at that time my parents were very scared because it would be my first trip overseas alone. I also was a little scared, but also I was quite confident because I have been to Japan twice before that, so I knew my way around. I had basic Japanese knowledge at that time. The trip was fine, I ran into no issues, and because of that trip, after that I was traveling alone a lot to many other countries. I mean, in other countries I did run into some issues which I will go into a bit later, but for now I'm just going to focus on Japan. So walking around Japan alone as a woman, I can confidently say that there is no other place in the world where I feel as safe as I do in Japan. I can walk around alone at nighttime, no problem. Say if I was, I don't know, really hungry at midnight and I wanted to grab something at 7-Eleven, I would have no issue just going down the street and, you know, going to my local 7-Eleven, picking up some food and walking back. The only time I did have an issue where there was a guy following me was about 8 years ago. I was at Ikebukuro station and I was walking with my friend. We were going from the station to go back to our hostel. We were speaking in English and I noticed there was a guy who was matching our walking pace. So I asked my friend to walk slower. She didn't know what was going on, so she was like, oh, sorry, and walked really slow. And I noticed that he also did the same. So at that point, I knew he was trying to follow us. So I let my friend know and we walked into a convenience store to, you know, just kind of buy some time and walk around a bit. He followed us into the convenience store. I think we only stayed in there for like 5 minutes. I bought some stuff and then I noticed there was a police box outside. So we just went to the police box and stood outside. I saw him go out of the convenience store. I don't know if he noticed us or not. It was kind of dark and it was like across the road, but he eventually walked off. So I waited there for an extra 10 minutes until I knew it was safe to go back to our hostel. That was the only weird stalking incident I had in Japan, and that was like in 2012, 8 years ago. Since then, I've traveled to Japan maybe about 20 times. I've lived in Japan for a year and a half and that has never happened again. So I guess if you are, you know, in Japan or any country and you notice that someone's following you, I would immediately go to a place where it's crowded, where there's lots of people around. Also, because now smartphones are a thing these days, you know, get someone you know on the phone, talk to them on loudspeaker if you can as well, just so they would know, and if something were to happen, then, you know, your friend on the phone would be suspicious. Even though I said that I feel very safe walking around Japan at nighttime, I always still have, like, you know, an eye out for my surroundings. You just always have to make sure just in case. Now, I do remember back in the day, if you were a woman walking alone in Shibuya, you will always get approached by many guys, and I've seen this happen to many Japanese women as well, and most of the time they just keep walking and ignoring them until the guys give up. But some of these guys are so persistent, they don't give up, which really annoys me. Like, they will literally follow the woman for like maybe 100 meters down the street. My trick to get rid of them is, if they approach me, I just say to them in English, sorry, I don't speak Japanese, and just pretend you don't understand what the hell they're saying, and they will walk off pretty quickly. These days it doesn't happen as often as it used to, and I read a story where police have actually been tracking that, so I realized over the past couple of years it happens nowhere near as often as it used to. If you are with someone else, it's less likely it would happen, but honestly, they usually approach you in a very public place. So you can just ignore them, walk off, or tell them no. They won't do any harm to you because there's so many people around. So even though Japan is very safe, there are of course dodgy places that you probably should avoid. Just like every country, there are tourist traps, places that are there just to rip you off. If you have been to Japan in the recent years and have been walking around Shinjuku to Kabukicho especially, you might hear an announcement that is said in English. I can't remember exactly what the announcement said, but it was something along the lines of be careful, don't get scammed, don't follow people to bars and all. So this has never happened to me either because I don't go to many bars, but I have heard of some cases where foreigners would go into a bar and get charged like $100 US for a beer. I also heard another story where a guy just got scammed. They forced him to go to the ATM and withdraw a lot of money, and they took all of it apparently. Once again, these are just stories I've heard. I've never actually seen or experienced this myself. But also keep in mind that these announcements are there in Kabukicho for a reason. So just be careful. Like in Japan, some bars have a bar charge, usually around $5 to $10 at most. That's normal. And also if you're walking around Kabukicho, which is like the party area, you will see lots of guys walking around trying to get people to go to their bars. Not all of them are dodgy. Like sometimes you can get some really good deals. I was with a group of maybe 8 people. We got an all-you-can-drink package for 1,500 yen, around $15 for an hour, which isn't bad. He originally said 2,000 yen and we just bargained it down to $15. You can also bargain at karaoke places and they might give you a deal. But yeah, once again, just be really careful of being overcharged. I've never had any of these issues with big chains for bars or karaoke, but once again, just use common sense. Also, I should mention that I'm not really a party person. I don't hang out at these party areas at night like in Shinjuku, Shibuya, Roppongi very often. So maybe because of that, I never ran into such situations. I've actually seen this happen, but I was in Kabukicho and there was a group of foreigner guys. Just in front of me, they were just walking, minding their own business, and then suddenly there was like a group of people trying to stop them and trying to drag them into their bars. I knew straight away it was a scam. I knew that they would try and charge them a lot of money. I think eventually the guys just kept walking, and the guys that were trying to get them to go into the bar kept following for a bit, but because they just kept walking and showed no interest, in the end they just gave up. So I just want to talk a bit about transport. So for taxis, I've taken taxis many times in Japan and never had an issue. Yes, taxis are expensive, but they all just use a meter and you just pay whatever it says at the end of your trip. I've had times where some taxi drivers would even give me a discount. In Japan, I've never had an issue of people scamming me. I have been scammed in Korea once. I was meant to pay $4 for a 5-minute ride and then the guy charged me $40. I didn't know any better and I just paid it. But I have had some people that wrote comments on my videos saying that they did get scammed in Osaka a few times from taxis. Personally, I have never had that happen, but yeah, just make sure that you're paying exactly what is on the meter and make sure the taxi driver has the meter on whilst you are on your trip. The next thing I want to talk about is groping on trains. So this is a big one. I get asked this a lot. Has this ever happened to me? No. I've been in packed trains and not once has it happened to me. However, I do know some friends where this has happened to them, so I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I am aware of my surroundings when I'm overseas, and I find that especially if I'm alone, my guard is up and I do have a resting bitch face. My friends have come up to me when I was waiting for them and have asked me, hey Kim, are you pissed off at something? And I'm like, no, this is my normal face. So maybe that's why it has never happened, because maybe I look like I'm about to punch someone, so people just avoid me. Oh yeah, a funny story. Actually, in a train in Japan, I was on a moving train and I was standing at the end of the carriage, and the train suddenly made a stop and I felt like I was gonna fall over. So I quickly tried to grab a handrail. I missed, punched a guy in the face by accident. I was like horrified, and I was like bowing to him and I was like, I'm so sorry, but he just laughed it off and said it was okay because, well, it was an accident. So phew, that was so embarrassing. A lot of people saw that. But anyway, my friends who have had this happen to them, one of them who is Japanese told me when she was in high school it would happen at least twice a week, and it usually is during peak hour where you can't really tell who did it. She said as a Japanese, she would just stay quiet and not cause a scene. I've heard from other people, and I'm sure you guys would have as well, that in Japanese culture, you don't cause a scene because it would be a nuisance to other people, which I find in this case to be really wrong. And I'm sure most of you guys would be feeling angry because, you know, when that happens, you shouldn't stay quiet about it. But you also have to understand that you may say to yourself, oh, if it happened to me, I might just yell out and scream at them and cause a scene. But when it actually happens to you, you might just freeze and not know what to do. I say this because this has actually happened to me once in Australia before when I was working in retail. I froze because I didn't know what was happening at the time. I always told myself before that I would yell out, I would scream, but I didn't. And I did, however, tell my manager, who called the police. But yeah, I don't blame the culture for not speaking up, because you never know until it actually happens to you. End of the story is that I have taken many peak hour trains and they were packed to the point where you're squished like sardines, but it has not happened to me. But I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, because unfortunately it does. Now, pickpocketing. So Japan is one of the only places in the world where I would feel comfortable just to leave my stuff at a table to save at a cafe. Honestly, if you do that anywhere else in the world, your stuff will probably get stolen. People do this all the time in Japan and no one touches your stuff. So I find Japanese people to be very honest. I have lost a bunch of stuff in Japan before and have always gotten it back. So for example, my passport. That's right. My dumbass lost my passport a couple of years ago in Tokyo. I was walking around in the park taking photos and videos of sakura. It was raining that day, so I was pulling my camera in and out of my bag. My passport must have fallen out then. I didn't realize until a few days later. Replacing a lost or stolen Australian passport was like $600 because you have to pay a penalty fee every time you lose one. So the next day I backtracked to all the restaurants, shops, cafes I went to. No luck. Eventually, I went to the police station in Roppongi, the big one, and I spoke to a policewoman. She got my details, told me to wait, and 5 minutes later, she comes out and says, I found it. And I was like, what? Any other country, they would just have taken my passport and kept it. I got my passport back. I've also lost my camera, just forgotten it at a restaurant, and I went back in. The staff had it, gave it back to me. There was even a time I was at a restaurant, and it was one of those restaurants where you choose your meal on a ticket machine first, you pay, then sit down. I had some change given to me from the machine, like, I don't know, $2 worth. I ate my food with my friends, left and forgot the coins on the table. The staff actually chased me down to give me back my money. Like, that's how honest they are. In Japan, of course, even though the chance you will get pickpocketed is very, very, very low, still keep your guard up just to be safe. But yeah, the only time where someone tried to pickpocket me was when I was in Paris. I had like a bag that was on my side, and I saw a woman come up to me and she was holding a folder over my bag, and I turned to look at her. She made eye contact with me and then walked away. Nothing happened, but I'm pretty sure she was trying to open my bag and the folder was just to cover, so I couldn't see it. Actually, in Paris, my very first time I was there alone was in 2013. I was there for work and I was only there for 4 days, but I had 1 day free to sightsee. So I was going to the cafes, touristy sites and all. Like for me, if someone talks to me in another country or anywhere, usually I'm really friendly back unless you were being an asshole. Quite a lot of people talked to me and it was really nice. But I had 2 guys offer to drive me to the airport. Of course I declined because work was paying for my taxi anyway. I don't think I ever mentioned this on my channel before, but I felt really weird, like, you just met me, you don't know me, so why do you want to give me a ride to the airport? I mean, I just politely declined and I was like, no, sorry, this is my last day in Paris and you know, I've got a lot of things I want to see, so bye. In most countries when I travel, I do make sure I get back home before dark if I'm alone. In Japan, I don't really care as much because there have been so many times where I've taken the last train at like 1 a.m. then had to walk home. That's pretty much all I wanted to say in this video. Obviously, because of these times, we cannot travel to Japan anytime soon. But if you are planning a trip to go to Japan, you know, next year, whether you're male or female, it doesn't really matter. All you need to do is just have common sense, make sure of your surroundings, don't follow random people into bars if they are forcing you to. Just remember to stay safe no matter where you are, and hopefully that we can all travel next year. Oh, I just want to travel somewhere so bad. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching if you made it all the way till the end. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. Also follow my vlog channel if you want to see what I get up to in my everyday life in Australia. I also have a gaming channel where I've been uploading Animal Crossing videos if you're interested in that. Follow me on all my social media, which I will link down below as well. And once again, if you guys have any more requests for videos like this where you just want me to sit down, chill and chat to you guys, then let me know the topic down below and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye guys!